The big issue nowadays is that data is everywhere. I mean, turn back 20, 30 years ago, the big problem was there isn't enough data. In fact, that problem has gone away. If there's a problem now, it's just the glut of data. And now as a question is, how should managers think about making decisions when there is data all over? Well, the answer is, you have to think carefully what the questions are. And the questions haven't changed. The questions are still the same. How do we make sure our new products are successful? How do we make sure our customers are getting what they want? The key is how not to forget these questions in the midst of all of this data. So sit back and see the forest for the trees. So what we try to address in the program is that it's not always from 0 to 100. Start thinking incrementally. Start thinking in small steps. Do some experimentation. Get into this idea of building this analytics muscle, so to speak. I think this program is a good combination of strategy and tactics. So if you're a C-level person, I think you have to be conversant with data. You have to understand the terminology. You have to understand what role it might play in you shaping your strategy. On the other hand, if you're an analyst, you perhaps want to work towards becoming a strategy person. So that way, if you're coming to this program, we will not talk much about the details of programming per se, but what do you do with it? I think there's a lot of fear and uncertainty around generative AI when we think about it. What's going to be the role? How might it change? Who are the people that are perhaps hired into a company? What will be the role that each individual might play when you have generative AI perhaps trying to get their job? But if you think about it, with all this fear also comes an opportunity. And the opportunity is using the right kind of generative AI as a complementary tool. So rather than kind of taking your job as a substitute, it becomes a complement. So you have to think carefully about what parts of your quote-unquote professional journey perhaps generative AI can help you. So rather than fighting it, I think you got to embrace it. Some of us might think Wharton is a finance school. It is, of course. But at the same time, I think many of us might be surprised and probably pleasantly surprised to know that Wharton is the hub of analytics. Wharton was one of the first schools, and if not the first, to start an analytics center. It was one of the first big business schools to give analytics majors. It's one of the first big business schools to have faculty that work around analytics. So wouldn't you want to come to a place which is the hub of analytics, where we don't just talk about analytics, we actually actively participate with companies. We go ahead and work on problems that actually have big practical implications. So when you come to Wharton, you'll see the theory as well as the practice.